enough
Yeah.
time, so
You know what? You might be right because what we do is we after we record the meeting, then we email them.
right.
We get all the information from the chat. So Liz, that might be helpful for you and uh Raquel.
Raphael.
Oh,
So
Raphael, there we go.
yes, yes. Well, let's go ahead and get some introductions started so we can uh, get started on time with our featured speaker, Liz. I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Dennis Schroeder. I am an Army veteran, retired after 24 years of service as a medical service corps officer. I live in Middle Tennessee, just north of Nashville. And amongst other things, I run a small nonprofit called the Price of Freedom Foundation that is dedicated to telling the complete life stories of those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom, those who died while in military service to our nation. And this actually is an adjunct of that. We believe that veterans telling their own story is important. And so this is not specific to having somebody who is lost, but is an open platform for any veteran and a lot of supporters of veterans to talk about their own experiences of service. So, Roy, if you could give a brief introduction, I'd appreciate hearing from you.
Okay. I'm Roy Dickin. I own a digital marketing agency, and I'm going to be developing the website and other marketing materials and procedures for a nonprofit called the Military Benefits Association. I don't know if somehow that can be an important thing for this group, but anyway, their sole purpose is to make sure veterans are protected and receive all the benefits they deserve. And I was really astounded to hear that there are actually hundreds of millions of dollars worth of benefits that are unpaid right now. So this organization is trying to make sure people are aware of what they could have in the line of benefits and take advantage of that. So it's
All right,
good to be here.
excellent. Thanks. Good to have you here. Raphael, give us a brief introduction, please. You're muted, Raphael.
There you go. Hi, so I'm currently on active duty, Command Sergeant Major Colon Hernandez. I am here in Fort Meade, Public Health Command East. It's my first time joining you all and listening. Been in the Army not, as of Monday, 28 years active duty, reserves in Puerto Rico for a little bit more than that. And I look forward to being able to at some point share my story of OIF, OEF, disaster response, and all the good things I've done. I'm a combat medic by trade.
Excellent. Well, we served the same purpose, but just different eras here. So glad to have you here, Raphael. Alicia, could you give us a brief introduction?
Hi, yes. So I'm Alicia Beccarelli, and I spent some time in the Marine Corps. And after getting out, I ended up following my now ex-husband around for his Army career, and we moved around. We ended up getting divorced, and so I started my own business. I am a bookkeeper, so I help small businesses scale their businesses and save a lot of money. And I actually specifically work with very small businesses because I feel like they just don't get the attention that they need or deserve. I do things a little bit differently than other bookkeepers. I do give out a set of seven reports. I package them all up all nice in a PDF, put them in a specialized portal for my clients, and then my calls with my clients are all recorded and then they are then uploaded into the portal as well. So my clients have access to our entire discussion to go back over everything that we talked about. I also offer automations for small businesses in their CRMs and tying their bookkeeping into payment processors and things like that.
Excellent. Thank you, Alicia. Santa Papa John.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody's off to a great start. Everybody that are serving or veterans, thank you for your service. I am on a mission to create a national list to help our veterans. There is no national list for services. So that Warriors Beacon of Hope is now live. The website is live. So I'm compiling a list so I can help you guys possibly give you an alternative to waiting for 5, 6, 8, 10 months or whatever the number is that the VA gives you that you need to wait for those services. So I'm helping you guys. I think it's muchly needed. And what I've been told is there is nothing there. So I'm helping Santa stepping up to the plate to create a list. So
All right. Thank you so much. Bob, it looks like you're trying to deal with some kind of technical issue there. Are you?
Yeah, it's so weird. I have a light that was lighting up. Now it's not lighting up. I'm trying to figure out what that is. But so
beat it with the hammer.
yeah, I'm about ready. Is my lighting okay for you?
Yes. Yeah, it looks fine.
Good, good. I moved my location, Dennis, from where I was before to another location. It looks like that Scott mentioned that my lighting was
Oh, there's a light behind off to the side of the right side of your head that gives like a streak up and down in the screen. But if you shifted just a little bit your head to your right, that'll block that. Just like that. Now then you have another one. You got two. So I think we're gonna have
Don't
that.
worry about it.
I'll pass.
We're
I'll
okay.
pass.
We're okay. We're not looking for Hollywood quality video today.
That's good.
Well, I'm a technology fanatic, but
Mhm.
I finally figured out how to turn my watch on and off. So yeah, I mean, you think about the eras that we were in. The beginning of the cell phone. Do you remember that? I
I
had
do.
my very first cell, and you'll appreciate this. My very first cell phone for my car was a rotary dial,
Whoa.
and I had to call zero for the information operator to place the call for me. That's how far back this stuff goes. Then they moved on to it was. Do you guys remember the Princess phones at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it was a Princess phone. Then, I got staying up with the 19th century, maybe instead of 20th century. Um, then you got the little suitcase side, not even suitcase, but a little
Motorola bag phone.
yes, there you go. There
My
you
mother
go.
used to my mother used to sell the cell phones in the bag and in the cars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff in it. Well, that was my era, I was rooted in technology and I stayed there, and I'm no spring chicken. Maybe a little older than a spring chicken, but
We're all young at heart.
there
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
Give us a little bit
Age
of,
is just
those
a
who
number
don't know
until you
you,
admit it.
give us a little bit of background of your military experience, if you would, please, Bob, just briefly here.
Okay, well, let's see. I was I was in during Vietnam. I was detached from the US Navy and assigned to NATO. Out of 1,000 guys going through what they called transit, 999 of them went to Vietnam. I was choice grade AB for going to Vietnam because I was third class radioman. And instead, I get orders to work for NATO in Norfolk, Virginia, reported to a base that was run by Alexander Haig, if you remember that name at all. And between reserves and active, I spent 3 years in active and 3 years additionally in reserve. So, and I had 2 levels above top secret. So that was kind of interesting stuff. I used to see back in those days, uh, how to go spy reports. I used to see this is what it was, reliable sources say, and then they print it out, and this was done. Okay, you ready for this? Teletype. Anybody ever see a teletype?
Mhm.
One, Dennis.
Yeah,
So yeah, I learned Morse code and all that good stuff. Crazy, crazy times. And look where the technology is today. That's the
yeah,
part that on a thumb drive, this big, you get terabytes of information now.
yes,
Hmm.
yes. It's
Yeah.
it's crazy. I recall my very first computer that I used when I was attending Army's Command General Staff College back in the late 80s, and it had a whopping 256 megabytes of memory.
Yeah, that was
And
big.
it was great. It was the speed demon at the time.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. And though in those days, a 250, 300 megabyte hard drive was the size of a washing machine,
Yeah,
40 to $50,000.
yeah.
Times have changed.
Yes, they have. I
Now
see
you carry them in your
Moshe.
pocket.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Moshe has joined us. So, Moshe, if you could briefly give a introduction for those that don't know you. Are you able to come off of mute? Well, I'm guessing not. All right. So we are really right about the time that we'd like to get started with our featured speaker. Oh, Moshe, you're back. Can you give a quick introduction here
Oh,
for
I'm
those?
sorry.
That's all right.
I stepped away for some iced tea. Um, Homemade iced tea. My name is Moshe Math. I am a partner in a company called Neuro Trained Sciences. I mentioned this earlier, so I don't bore Alicia. And you as well, Dennis, you and Bob. But our systems are similar to the massages at the airport, but we offer something called a sonic massage using sound, light, and vibration to take the mind and body through a voyage. We have various sound sessions. As relates to VA, my experience with VA was by accident, and I'm hoping to do research with them as a result. And as at a Jeet Kune Do exhibition, I met many veterans, and a couple of them have PTSD, and we were able to help them out temporarily. And in the process, that's became my interest in working with veterans, and hopefully I'll be able to do research with one of the veteran hospitals I met by accident. I know my wife's expecting a commission out of it as a result. It's because it's indirectly through her that I got the meeting. So, but hopefully we can do research for PTSD as well as other factors. I see our system being on Navy ships for people who are away for long periods of time. They need something to help them feel better, help homesick and other stress that related to being out to sea for a long period of time, as well as other aspects such as reconnaissance and also for physical and occupational rehab. So I'm hoping to work with the hospitals, VA, and so forth in that area through research with one of the hospitals. And I may have a break because I've hit my head so hard against the wall that medical prescription of Motrin wouldn't help.
Did you do that on purpose?
Going to be your own
Yes,
client.
because I'm into S&M. Yes.
Sonic massage?
Yeah.
That's good, but I didn't think of that, but that's good. Yes, sonic massage.
Great. Well, thank you, Moshe. I want to introduce our featured speaker, Liz Buck. Liz Buck knows me through another aspect of my life, which is photography. That's how we met. And so I don't want to steal any thunder from her. Liz, are you going to be sharing your screen with us or?
I just have a few photos of my short period of time and
Okay. Well,
my
that's fine.
inspiration and part of my inspiration for joining the service.
Okay.
Just to start out, I'll just say that
Well, I just wanted to ask because we have to have the assistant give you permissions, the
uh, it's perfectly
control.
fine.
So
We don't
yeah,
need to. It's just like 4 or 5, so I'm not
yeah,
worried
yeah.
about that.
Well,
So we're
it,
good.
it always helps. So yeah, please give her the controls so she can share her screen.
Let's see here. Oop. Where is it? Sorry, y'all.
That's right.
Okay.
It'd be a green thing right in the middle, near the bottom.
Yeah, I have so many different things open right now. It's trying to decide which one it wants to do.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the hard part, is to find the one you want.
Yeah. Okay. So, can you all see the photo of the gentleman on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. That is my father. He was in the service from 73 until I believe 93. So it started kind of with him. I'm literally what you would refer to as a military brat. I was born in the military. I joined the military. I married the military. I divorced the military, and I vetted out. Um, my time was short, um, due to I had an unexpected surprise called a child pop up when I was at my very first duty station in Fort Wainwright, Alaska. Due to not having any family and my MOS as being commo, my daughter's father and I were always the first ones in, last ones out. So I opted to go ahead and chapter out so that I can raise my daughter safely an environment. So we ended up coming back to the lower 48 after I had only been in for a short period of time because he had already did his 4 to 5 years there. Um, During the time there, though, it was quite fun because let's see if I can get this screen. There we go. During that time there, I had learned this is my father's awards and achievements of his time in the Air Force, and there's myself being enlisted. I was roughly 19, and there's what I got to do while I was in the military. I did retrans.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, 4 radios at one time. And when I enlisted, I we had to put trash on the top because of the bears. And that was also a frightening little thing because there was a bear on the front of the Humvee when I woke up staring at me. Cloth doors will be fun to say the least. Um, okay, how do I stop sharing? I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing.
There you go.
If it was a
Okay.
black bear, you're probably okay. If it was a grizzly, you might be thinking something different.
Uh, I'm not, honestly, it's hard to remember, and I don't really care to remember because it was a little terrifying. Um, Being up there for a week, luckily it was during the summer for my first time out, because I had a dickens of a time during my time in the service due to my size. And Dennis can vouch, I'm a very petite person. I'm roughly about 4'11". Um, it was very hard to get standard issue equipment. So I sat in recruitment, I guess you would call it, or reserve, until they had our class because they overbooked and shipped everybody out when the drill sergeants didn't get their break. So we had to sit there an extra 6 weeks until they got their break in reception. And in the meantime, I had no boots. All of my uniforms had to be altered because of my height. I had to go see orthopedics for my feet to be measured to have boots made. Get my boots until we left basic to go to AIT. So I did basic and tennis shoes,
Oh, wow.
as well as crutches for a little while because I ended up getting injured and I refused to go home. That was my biggest fight was, oh, you can go home. You can go home. No, I signed up to be here. I'm going to stay here and you're not going to tell me otherwise. So I ended up butting heads with one of the female drill sergeants a lot because I refused to go home. So it's even the lovely meeting I had once I finally got to Alaska. Even there, didn't get the lovely white bunny boots that you would get in Arctic wear. I had to get Sorels so that I could wear the skis to go cross country skiing and be able to survive in the Arctic. when we did field training. And that was a whole experience in itself. Um, Having to do your job, stay warm, and keep all your fingers and toes. So hiking up the front of a mountain with a ruck that weighs twice as to what you do, it, it was rough. But I learned a lot and made great friends, family for the most part. Um, but when it was my time to go and I didn't want to go, I kind of regret and wish I would get to go back. But due to injuries and health conditions now, I can't. So, but it was still good times. Learned a lot. Went from AM radios to FM radios in the process of going from Georgia to Alaska. So that was fun.
What years was this?
This was in 1996 through 98. They had just transitioned the AIT classes from 18 weeks to 32 weeks. So the class that came in right after me got bumped up to 32 weeks to go from FM to more of the digital stuff that we see now and hear about now. Because I can tell you, I still listen to so many conversations going on at once due to having to sit next to four radios and listening to all the conversations going on at the same time. So it's like, did you hear that? Hear what? Like, I swear, I just heard a conversation, and yeah, so it's been fun living the life of a military brat. Gone from I'm the only one that went in the army. Everybody else was Air Force. I had a stepdad that was also in the Air Force, and another stepdad that was Navy, and my little brother is now getting out next month from the Navy as well. So, but I had to be the rebel and go Army.
Definitely a military family.
Yes, yes, we were. I did look into going into the Coast Guard, but when I saw the training video, I said, no, I'm not doing it.
As a fellow short girl, I've got maybe 3/4 of an inch on you. Uh, the Coast Guard is not for us.
No, it is not.
I learned that real fast. I did the same thing. I was like, I'm going to do the Coast Guard, and I looked at it and I was like, no, I can't do that.
One of the main reasons why I chose to go Army over Coast Guard is that was the only other place that would give you the option to go to where Rafael is at in Puerto Rico, because that was one of the destinations I wanted to go to. Because my brothers are Puerto Rican, so I wanted to go where the family was.
That's a good reason.
No, but instead, I went from California to Georgia, straight up to Alaska, and it was like -14 or -17. I was like, I just left 80-degree weather. Can somebody get me a coat? So, but
real quick.
Yes.
yeah, so and Santa would have loved it because I did meet Santa in North Pole, Alaska. That was
There is a
that was
town,
interesting.
yes, I've been told all about it.
It's really there's a lot of Alaska gets talked down quite a bit, like as far as being stationed there. I do feel bad for a lot of the soldiers because there is a high suicide rate. There's a lot of PTSD there because of the lack of family. Um, and there's a lot more males than females. So that does make it very hard to develop relationships, to have that physical connection so that you can mentally handle it.
So do you know what the suicide rate is amongst veterans now?
I do not know what it is now. I know at the time that I was there, it was one woman to every 10 males. And the sergeant that picked me up, that was in my platoon, uh, I was told a few weeks later that he had just recently tried to take his own life. They found him in his barracks room with a shotgun in his mouth. So
How long ago was this?
That was in 90, 96, 97 when I got up there finally.
Friend of ours, their son, a soldier up there, he committed, and I think that was 17.
Yeah, it's good to make as many friends as you can there. One of the lovely things, because my MOS was highly sought after at the time, which was a 31U, not quite a uh, wire dog, as they like to call it. Um, I was placed in the all male infantry unit, and they were trying to put me in a room there. I looked at them, I said, I don't think that's going to work very well. We thought you were male. Um, you have my chart in front of you. How do you get male? And it says female, and then it says Elizabeth. So I ended up getting assigned to headquarters because they were also in need. And I developed a lot of great friends with a lot of airborne NPs and ADA singers. So it was like a lot of brotherly love watching over a little sister.
You know what the suicide rate is amongst veterans?
I don't know. I know it has gone up quite a bit over the past couple of years.
Yeah, there's 16 million veterans, and approximately 25 veterans a day commit suicide. And I'm sorry, my daughter worked for the VA in Southern California, and she said it was one of the hardest. She only lasted there a couple of years. She couldn't take it, dropped out.
Now, I one of my frustrations, and I would just associate that with being a military brat, seeing family come and go, um, being sent out on tour and not seeing them for so long and them coming back and then being a different person, seeing that as a child and then seeing it as an adult. In the process is very hard mentally all the way around for everybody. But I feel as there is a lack of education for families, for their soldiers on what to expect and how to handle when certain situations arise when a soldier returns from a tour. I think they get panicked
Absolutely.
and they end up saying they can't handle it and tell them to get out, and they end up being homeless and they take their lives because nobody's there to help them, especially those that they thought would be. So,
So true.
That is incredibly true because I have the view from both sides, like from being in, but also and the same thing, I got out because I had kids and he was deploying so much that one of us needed to make sure that we were around for our kids. And I can say, so I was in the Marine Corps, he was 82nd Airborne, and I can say from my experience there that neither him nor us, none of us on the home side were prepared for what was coming home to us.
yeah.
And they were so ill prepared when they came back because they're dumped back into this family life after I mean in in our lifetime specifically, this like what's something that's never happened. They were deployed to an actual front and they came back
Mhm.
as whole different people.
Yep.
And then we're told, okay, well, here are your children. Now go back to being an empathetic parent. And they weren't given any real tools to do that. And
No,
it's causing a massive problem today.
there's no training for the soldier on how to
Oh,
handle coming back into that lifestyle, and there is no training for the families on how to accept the soldier once he's returned.
no, they're
You
just
know,
told, oh, your husband's back. Be happy and oh yay. But it's like, okay, cool. I know when
mm-mm.
my husband got back, I was like, okay, I love you so much. You're in my way though. You're screwing up 2 years of patterns that I've
Routine. You've
yeah,
established a routine, and that routine gets disrupted, and then they feel as though they become a burden and they leave, or
yeah. And
you push them out,
it's
and
big.
that's something that can be addressed if the proper education was provided.
Yep.
The way I heard about it, it's not the education as much as it may even be deeper than that. But the fact is that you both have had to take on the complete role of running the household and be mommy and daddy at the same time. And when he in this case he, so I'm sorry, I don't want to make this gender, but when he comes back, it's finding a way to start fitting into that role gradually so that you can have the kind of relationship you had before he left, since we're talking about husbands.
Well,
And
it's
that's,
even fathers though,
and
as a
that's part of the
child.
problem.
Yeah,
But I'm
I
saying that's
didn't.
part of the problem.
Mhm.
But the other thing is what's and Bob can speak to this, because even though he's not, his dad was in the World War II generation, he was not. I tease him about it. But on a serious note, how did soldiers do in the past? Because we've had this with World War II, where they're out away for years at a time, came back and were different people, and yet somehow the family unit may not have thrived but survived. And I don't
Because
understand.
the thought processes and the judgment was not as far fetched as it is now. People are judged more often before they read the book. I mean, you could look at a person and they might be smiling, but you don't know what's really deep rooted inside of them. And it could be part of their tactic to keep people at bay as a safety precaution.
We had it with World War II veterans. I mean, Bob can speak to this more about because of his dad. I don't know if Dennis can, but I know Bob can. So I don't understand why the dynamics seem different today than they did back then.
Well, I can speak from the standpoint of being a Navy brat, that the Navy has always had this issue. Um, when you would have send a ship out to sea, do their tour, and they're gone for 6 to 9 months, and then they come back. This has always been an issue with the Navy, just by the nature of how they have to do their business. I would say that from looking at how my father, in my memories of my father when he would come back, I'm not saying it's a healthy way, but uh, there's a lot of just shutting up and keeping things inside and going along to get along, to make to not create more of a problem at home than he had to. So I think this is an issue that we are simply being more aware of, and I'm glad that we're being more aware of it. I think that from I haven't been uh, in direct communications with folks on the active side in a long time. Raphael, being on active duty, probably has some insights as to what is going on currently. But I know before I started the nonprofit and I was working for a college of nursing, and I would go out to military bases and reserve units that were activating to deploy, et cetera. I know there were programs that had this in mind, that we're about to send you off, and it's going to be a big disruption in the life of the family back at home. And oh, by the way, when you come back, there's going to be a big disruption to to reintegrate you into the life of your family when you return. And it seemed that these meetings I was at, that they had something that they were trying to do. Now, was it effective? I have no idea. What it entailed, I really don't know, because I was a civilian contractor over here representing a college of nursing. So, they didn't include me in those kind of conversations, but I did see that they were attempting to do something. So, Raphael, you have any insights into this?
Yes. So, so I've seen it from obviously 1990s to today. There's been a big shift. The organizations in the force comm side of the house, your 82nd, 173rd, First ID, and things like that, they have a very robust what they call the MFLIC, Military Life Family Consultancy Program. So they're embedded at the brigade level, and it's a tool that commanders now have, to where if they feel like there's a sense of, or there's even been an attempted suicide, or things like that, then they use that and they leverage those assets to go down and talk to the soldiers, and they have different life coping skills and a lot of tools. But one of the biggest shifts I've seen is folks that are more outspoken about their struggles. And little by little, the stigma has gone away that, you have issues, so you'll never get promoted type of thing. I just had my behavioral health appointment yesterday with my provider, right? Back in a day, Vietnam, and my dad went to Vietnam, he would tell me that that was unheard of. If you said you had some sort of problems like that, you were outcasted and things of that nature. I think the biggest problem now, today, that we're having is that because there's that big of awareness, now the medical community is struggling to catch up with licensed providers to handle that. I'll give you an example. I had a soldier yesterday walked into the PX in one of our bases and was about to buy a weapon. He had a plan. Barracks room was boxed up, a note. And the folks at the PX told him, yeah, we cannot sell you a weapon, but if you come back with your orders, we'll give you a weapon, right? So he had an intention, he had a plan, but since he didn't have his orders, he went back to the barracks. In that little instance that he decided to go and then it didn't work and went back to his barracks, and he felt the need to call his supervisors. And then he went to the hospital, they took him to the ER, they interned him, but they can't keep him for more than four days inside a military treatment facility. So now it's back to the unit to take care of him until the next day, where they can then go to an inpatient facility. And it's a juggle, and we're seeing that across the board.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight. And yeah, it seems to me that we've come quite a long way from when my father served, when I served, but we still have a long ways to go. So I think we kind of got a little bit off track. I didn't want to take you off track of telling your story, Liz. So
No, like I said, my story was very brief due to how things played out. I basically was on profile for most of my basic into AIT. I managed to get a waiver approved to go into AIT and go from AIT to my first duty station on a waiver due to the injuries I incurred, but I was still refusing to exit. I did not want to exit. I wanted to be there, and I was not going to let anybody push me out.
uh,
So I ended up getting there, and then unfortunately, I ended up getting pregnant and ended up relocating back down to the lower 48 so I can be closer to family to help with my daughter while her dad would end up getting deployed and such.
well,
But your
so what
experience,
would you say that your military experience, would you say your military experience has influenced or affected your life subsequent to your time in service?
After finally joining, it helped honestly to understand what my family was going through and seeing it from a different side of the fence versus standing there waiting for my dad to come home. I was there, on that position.
Do you
So,
think you have PTSD?
um, I do, due to some of the things that had happened to me along the way. We can put it this way: a soldier ended up with getting an article due to what he did to me while I was in Alaska. So there's things that probably shouldn't have taken place. There are things that could have been handled differently. There's even my drill sergeant, she ended up getting wrote up as well for the way she spoke to me in front of everybody, and the way she handled the situation because she thought I was the female soldier that was fraternizing with the other drill sergeant from her team, and I was not. So I was like, again, don't judge a book until you've read the whole thing, and ask questions. That's something that does not get done. Questions don't get asked before judgment is made. Tremendously. I did have a four-star general speak to me a little brash when I had to represent the single female soldiers in a meeting. It was a fun opportunity to meet a four-star general. I got a coin. Someone stole my coin, but um, so it was a four-star from the PAC region. And the first thing out of his mouth was, "Who the hell let you in? And what the do you got on your feet?" Because I did not have the standard issue stuff. And I had to go through and explain all that to him. And he says, "Well, if you can't wear what everybody else wears, you shouldn't be here." So I was like, "Ah, I feel like I'm back in the South."
Unreal. Unreal.
So I mean, there's still a lot of that, and even being in the South, it still happens. Especially, I just got out of the medical industry because I was let go and have been basically unemployed for about a month, almost a month now, because I told the truth. And so when people don't want to hear the truth, and when you say the words FDA regulation, I don't want to be a part of it. I'm not going to be a compliance issue, and you can bring yourselves down. I'd rather go ahead and be fired instead of end up going to jail over something that should not have been done. So
About your integrity. It's apparent you have integrity.
big time. I fight for any sort of compliance at all costs, especially if it comes down to anything federal. Because like you, I had a top secret clearance because of my job in the service, and I'm not about to jeopardize that now because you never know when it's needed again.
Do you know how much they spent on getting you your top secret clearance?
No, I actually don't.
I had heard they went and interviewed the people that lived around me. I was born in an area called Beaverton, Oregon, right
Heard of
outside
it.
of Portland. They went and interviewed um, our neighbors when I was 3 years old. They they interviewed, well, back to when I was 3 years old, but they interviewed. I got my top secret clearance in like 1970, probably 1969, and the government is willing to spend the money to make sure that you get the clearances that you need. And I used to see some amazing stuff, you know. It was when there was an East Germany, and all we would see is reports that say reliable sources say, and these were coming from spies that were in East
Mhm.
Germany. So, they don't, that's one area they don't slack on. The government will spend the money to make sure that they know if you're qualified to get top secret clearances. So they spent something like I had, I might be wrong with this, but I had heard that they had spent something like $130,000 on my clearance. That's a chunk of change.
That's
Mm.
chuck and change, especially back then too. So
Yeah, yeah.
What's really frustrating to my brother-in-law is he's got some upper level clearances and he's got PTSD really bad. So then he goes to talk to his psych, and there's certain things that are really upsetting him this week and that and everything else. And he can't talk to his psychologist because his psychologist doesn't have any clearance. So he can only talk about certain things and he can't talk about other subjects. So that's really frustrating for him.
yeah, I can imagine.
And, how do we change that? I don't know.
I don't know how many times I've probably repeated this in this group meeting, but I have PTSD, post-traumatic spousal disorder.
I'm sure she's hearing this too and taking that in. So,
But
you know,
forget Bob, she's got to put up with you as well as you putting up
Oh,
with
I
her.
know, I know. But I've learned the two words that create success in my marriage of 41 years.
Yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
like, I definitely thank you, Liz, for sharing your story. And one of the things that I like to emphasize when folks are considering coming on and telling their stories that we really don't have any um, agenda here. It's basically other than just giving you a platform to tell your story. We're not about just feel good stuff. Uh, you know, good, the bad, the ugly, everything that's in between with that. We want the truth and yes, we can handle the truth. So there's from my perspective, um, there's fabulous people that I've served alongside of, and there have been a few dirtbags as well. So we don't fit into any one particular box, and that's what I love about the service. That's what I love about talking to my fellow veterans. That's why I want to get more of these stories out here, because there's so fewer and fewer people in our country have served or are directly connected with somebody that serves. And so what are they left with? They're left with the things they see on TV and movies, and to get a skewed idea of what it means to be uh, soldier, airman, Marine, sailor, etc. And I'd like to give a better, more accurate, more truthful picture out there. Um, and I don't want to over to tread lightly on the bad stuff. I mean, I follow and support on through different groups and social media folks that are dealing with the ongoing issues, in one case with the Coast Guard Academy, but also with other services. The fact that many commands today still uh, diminish and suppress reports of sexual harassment and abuse. And that just we can do better, and our men and women that join deserve better than that. So anyway, that's I guess my little soapbox moment
Well,
there.
Dennis, I mean, the reality of the same old, this is the way we did it 100 years ago.
Mhm.
That needs to change because it didn't always work for every person.
All right.
And when you get different situations, you need to adjust. And some of these commanders have been taught by the old standards. That's not necessarily the right way.
And by the way, let me add, it's also not the American way, because one of the things that separated America from Europe is the fact that we didn't do things the way they did it in Europe. And in spite of that, we still made it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left to our time. One of the things I always want to encourage folks is to see this as the beginning of a conversation and not just the end of it. So Liz, you and I didn't really talk about this in advance, and I apologize because I should have mentioned it, but I am going to put my contact information in the chat. I encourage everybody to do the same. And I do encourage folks
Sorry.
to have conversations outside of this group, because that's what, we're here to tell stories and to hear your story and to share our stories, but also to have ongoing conversations with others. You and I, have had some great conversations over the past few years, and I appreciate